Right. So, welcome to the Cramlington, Bedlington and Seaton Valley Local Area Council. We have at the meeting I've got showing as Les Bowman,
Present.
Daly, myself, Susan Dugworth, Harry Flux, Anne Heppel, Malcolm Robinson, and Mark Swinburne. And have we got any?
Have you mentioned me?
Bill Crosby, yeah.
Oh, I mustn't have heard you, Christine. Sorry. I was
Sorry.
panicking.
I've got you ticked off, yeah, don't worry. So can we have the minutes of the last meeting approved? Would anyone like to propose them to be the true record?
Move the true record, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Malcolm. And any disclosures of interests? Nope. Right, so we're going on to the main part of the meeting. It's the Local Transport Plan Programme 2021 to 22, the Highways Maintenance Investment in U and C Roads and Footpaths Programme 22.
Thank you very much, Chair. So if I just talk you through the programme. So basically, as you described, it's the draft programme for the capital investment in the county's highways over the next financial year. So it's a total investment of just over £19 million. That's the funding through from DFT. We also have got £5 million covering U and C roads. That's the second part of the £15 million investment made by the county council in from its own resources to improve and maintain our highway network, which I'm sure you'll all welcome has been the second year of that programme. The programme itself overall has been developed following the usual discussions with town and parish councils and county councillors to identify their priorities and then try and work those priorities through into the programme wherever we can. Unfortunately, as always, the demands outweigh the funding available, but we have obviously prioritised that and identified those areas where we think we get the best value for money and the best return, understanding the network and what needs to happen to the network. You'll see from the appendices that the investments effectively split across 4 activity areas. So it's walking and cycling, safety, road maintenance and improvement schemes, and then bridges, structures and landslips. What I want to do rather, because we've obviously had this documentation for some time, is just really highlight some of the key areas in each of those appendices without going into the actual individual detail of the scheme. So if I just talk through that just briefly, the first area, walking and cycling, it's really just to highlight that we are allocating £1.5 million in improvements to walking and cycling. Those fundamentally aim to make it safer and encourage more people to take either pedestrian journeys or on a push bike or scooter to undertake those short journeys. So it's trying to encourage that modal shift, which is both good for people's health, but also helps support our climate change agenda and trying to reduce CO2 emissions from transport activity. What I'd also like to really highlight is that whilst there's that £1.5 million within the LTP, within the council's overall medium-term financial plan capital programme, there is a further £3 million allocated to support cycling and walking activity, and that's part of the local cycling walking investment plans, or LCWIP plans, that are looking at the 12 main towns and the cycling walking networks within those towns and trying to use that to funding to leverage in other funding to take forward improvements to that overall network. The next big block's the safety schemes, where there's just over £2.1 million allocated. Some of that's tackling those high-risk sites that we understand from our accident stats where there's particular areas of concern, and we do further investigation work to look at engineering measures to tackle that. There's a lot of general traffic calming, traffic management measures that will be taken forward under that. And I think the other thing to highlight is the £350,000 in this year's programme, which is a general refurbishment and renewal of signage and road markings. And that's something that we had a separate allocation in for last year as well. And it's on the back of a lot of the comments and the concerns that are raised both through county councillors and also through town and parish councils about that white lining and signing and trying to improve road safety and making sure that the general infrastructure's up to scratch in relation to that. The road section, as you would, I think, anticipate, is the biggest area of the funding because that's the largest part of our actual asset base in terms of the road network at just over £12 million. And really what I would say is that that's fundamentally there to try and address the structural decline of the overall road network. A key element within that is the specific allocation of £750,000 on drainage improvement schemes. And that's primarily looking at areas where we know there's drainage issues, that the existing, either the existing highway drainage is under capacity for the amount of water that it's now having to receive, or where there's just fundamentally low-lying areas that are causing us problems that we need to address. And I'm sure, given all of the rain and all of the problems we had over the last few weeks, you know, this is again a second-year activity. We did this kind of arrangement last year, and it really did pay dividends during that bad weather in the last fortnight, where some of those low-lying areas that have been previously really problematic were either not a problem or much less of a problem than what they otherwise would have been. So that's already paying dividends, but we clearly want to continue with that work and continue with that benefit. The last area in the LTP is the bridges, structures and landslips at just over £3 million. That primarily looks at our ongoing programme of bridge strengthening works. It also looks at trying to tackle some early interventions at areas where we know they're prone to landslips, and it's trying to protect and stabilise those parts of the network so that they basically don't have a landslip. And obviously that is a lot more expensive and a lot more disruptive to resolve in the longer run. So it's preemptive work to try and tackle that. The other £5 million, which is the UNC road investment from the council's own reserve, is primarily around rural roads and residential roads, looking at structural maintenance and resurfacing and surface dressing activity. There is a chunk of money in there also against small works, which are basically just discrete areas that need treatment, and that's structural patching, and that's basically the local area highways managers looking at the network and understanding where they're getting complaints and being able to tackle that with longer term, better and more sustainable repairs. And also an allocation of funding against footway refurbishments to tackle effectively some of those areas that have been underfunded in the past. We get a lot of complaints, particularly in residential areas, about footway maintenance, and to trying to improve those and tackle the worst areas. So we've got Neil and Dale present on the meeting today. If there's any queries that you want to ask in terms of any detail within the makeup of the programme. The next steps following the local area council sessions and getting your feedback is to reflect on that within the overall programme allocations and the schemes that are in there. And then once that's finalised, in the next couple of weeks, to then actually start cracking on with the programme from April and getting it implemented going forward. So more than happy to take any feedback that members have got in relation to the programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Can I open it up to the members? Anyone wants to ask questions? I've got Malcolm and Mark.
Thank you, Christine. Paul, about the cycleways and whatnot. Now, 6-7 years ago, Bedlington had an investment through Sustrans in various cycleways to school for exactly the same reasons that you're talking about. The funding for that came to an abrupt halt. So while there was a lot put in, there's still patches which haven't been put in. Would that be able to be looked at?
Depends where they're at, because like I say, through that LC WIP process, the whole basis of those plans is to look within the 12 main towns as the key areas where you're getting most of those short journeys. And if you're talking about, you know, home to school type travel, certainly those are picked up as key areas within the LC WIPs in terms of a key route that would need investment to try and get more people out of cars and onto push bikes. So certainly if they're in the main towns, yes.
Well, we seem to have made a good start, and then it came to an abrupt halt, and maybe this could like finish it off, you know. That's what I was thinking.
I would certainly hope that that's the case, because like I say, the £3 million there is to take forward parts of that activity, but fundamentally it's also there to try and pump prime and to attract further investment from government and through Section 106 funds and the like from developers as well. So it's really just having a firm plan that we can then try and deliver and invest in.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. I've got Mark, and then I've got Susan, then Alan.
And thank you, Chair. Just a bit of clarification. I'm a little bit confused on some of the detail on one of them, if I can, please. It's on the traffic management, the detail in there. So with regards to traffic speeds, it's got down that in the document that I've got here for Doxford Place, Cramlington and Barnes Park, Cramlington. So when I put my request in for next year's LTP, it was for Southfield Gardens, Cramlington and Barnes Park, Cramlington. The Doxford Place was part of the current year's, part of there was a few on the Hall Close estate, and Doxford Place was part of this year's, which I've been trying to chase up along with Ruben, I know. And I know the document says that anything not done this year would not be on, you know, that has to be carried over, would not be on this document. So I'm just after a bit of clarification as to, is this a misprint saying Doxford Place on here? And should it be the Southfield Gardens? And what's happening with the Doxford Place work for this year? Because I've not been getting any response on that.
Neil, are you able to come in on that one?
Yeah, I can answer that. I think Doxford Place, I don't think it was in the LTP for this current financial year. I know you kindly funded a feasibility stream out to see what was possible, and it's implementing the findings of that feasibility. I don't know if you've seen the proposals or not on that yet. I can ask Ruben if he's had them back.
No, this is the thing, Neil. We had this conversation some time ago, and it was in for this year. It was quite clear that was in for this year, and you wanted to push it till next year. And I said that it was quite clear that it was in for this year. Both Neil and myself have been asking for this this information since it should have been available in November, and we've still not had it back. So it was quite clear that it was in for this year for the 20 mile an hour on the Hall Close estates, it should be completed for this year's LTP, because that's what the request was in for.
I mean, I know there's a load of streets around that area, so there may be a bit of confusion. What I'll do, I'll speak with Ruben, get the drawings, and I think there is some things to share with you there, so we can have a chat about what the proposals are and what consultation, if any, is needed. There'll be no consultation required for 20 mile an hour limits because there's nothing physical going in place there, but there would be for that Station Road one, which is in there as well.
I know I'd funded the consultation for that, and none of the residents have received anything yet, because the consultation was to be done this year. But if you can get back to us on that, I'd be grateful, please.
Yeah, no problem.
For that, Mark. Susan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm really pleased to see there's a number of schemes in here which aim to improve pedestrian safety and reduce speed from Blythe to the end of Seaton Sluice. So that's brilliant, thank you. However, I know and I see that another one of the items that was put down by Seaton Valley Council, the road safety measures in Hollywell's in there. But I'm a bit concerned that there's nothing at the top of Double Row connecting the massive new development in Seaton Delaval to the rest of Seaton Delaval. And even though I'm not a ward councillor there, I've had a huge amount of mail and emails from residents there about that. Why on earth it wasn't part of a 106 agreement when that estate was developed further, I do not know. But it is a really dangerous, busy junction with the industrial traffic at Double Row, the schools traffic and the traffic to the supermarket. So I really would ask that could be looked at again, please. It's another example of allowing house building without thinking of the impact it has on the people who then buy those houses, and you know, making sure they can safely get across roads to schools and things and shops.
Is this the houses on the roundabout, the little roundabout? Is that where you're?
Well, it's the estate behind there, which I don't know if you've been there ever, Neil, but it is absolutely massive now. So
Right.
a huge number of houses on the Cramlington side of the mini roundabout there at Double Row. So it started off with about 20 houses. There's hundreds there. It's massive.
Is that Wheatridge Park?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's Wheatridge or Wheatfield. I get why we call two estates virtually the same name. I don't know. And I say it's not my ward, but because of Margaret's ill health this year, I've been contacted by lots of people about it, and I know that the parish council put it in as one of their priorities. There's going to be an accident. It's a travel to school route for kids. It's.
And we did a crossing on the, I can't remember the road number, the main road.
Yeah, you did
Just off the
try the
junction.
supermarket to connect, but this is the other estate that needs crossing at it. It needs something to actually stop the traffic, because a lot of that traffic that goes down there is big, heavy, articulated lorry type traffic. It's, you know, it's a bad mini roundabout. People don't see it; they come straight over it.
Right.
So I'm just concerned there's no reference in there to it at all.
Right. We can certainly take a look at that. That's not a problem. And maybe have a chat separately from this and just get an understanding of the issues, and maybe even do a site meeting if we feel it's necessary, just to get a bit more understanding about it.
Well, if you want to do something at lunchtime one day, go for a walk around that estate. It's blooming massive. It's got a river running through it.
That's it, right? We'll do that. Okay, thank you for that.
Alan, would you like to ask your question now, please?
Yeah, thank you. I've got one question, but it's more of a comment, and I'm not sure, to be honest, whether it's there is a solution to this or any easy solution. Anyway, it's on micro surfacing. I've had quite a number of estate roads in my patch where that's been done, and it's created a lot of hassle amongst residents. I mean, I know the position because I've talked to people like, sorry, my hearing aid's buzzing, it shouldn't. Sorry, I've talked to officers about this, and I understand that it takes a while to bed in and all the rest of it. But the problem is that residents are kind of almost angry it, and you do more work, which is scheduled, I think, for next year in parts of my ward. And there's going to be another reaction to that as well. I don't know if there's an easy solution to this, but it does cause a lot of concern, and I get it in the neck every time. But as I say, I don't know if there's an easy solution to it, other than proper resurfacing the roads, I guess. The other thing, just following on from what was saying before, can I just confirm that members and local schemes projects are not within this LTP? I assume that's the case. So they're completely separate, I understand. Because I've got a request for interactive speed cameras on one of my estates, and I just wanted to make sure that was the case.
If it's being funded through your member small schemes, it wouldn't be picked up on this. This is just purely LTP funded schemes. In terms of your comment about the micro surfacing, Alan, that obviously we now do quite a lot of mail shotting activity to residents in advance of the works, just to try and manage their expectations around what it is going to look like. It is a really good value for money treatment that enables us to, you know, cover a larger area, get more bang for the buck, seals the surface of those roads and breathes new life into them for a much longer period of time. So it's certainly a really beneficial treatment, something that we're keen on and continue to roll out. But if there are things we can do to improve that communication to the residents so that we manage their expectations and can support, you know, the buy-in to that process, we're more than happy to take that on board and to listen to suggestions on that.
Thanks, Paul.
I think that's a good point that you've raised, Councillor, because I think it's about education or communication with the public in terms of it can look a bit slapdash when it's first put down. And the key is the aftercare, making sure it's swept afterwards and giving it time to bed in. But once it's bedded in, it's, you know, it's proven to be a useful part of our toolbox in terms of prolonging the life of carriageways.
Thank you. Barry, would you like to ask your question?
Boing, boing. No, I would like, well, I'd just like to say thank you for what's in this, really. I've asked some questions on the back of it previously. I've got some really good details from the team. I'm pleased about that. I'm particularly pleased at the crossing at Beacon Hill, which is something, given we've got school children coming across from Bassington Manor, New Estate to Beacon Hill School is needed. And I'd just like to say thank you for listening. I think there was quite a forthright conversation behind closed doors at one point or another with councillors, and some of that stuff which has been mentioned then has been put in, as I see. So I'd just like to say thank you for that. Thank you.
Harry, Les, got Wayne.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the report. I welcome the improvements in Hollywood Village. When you consider that a gentleman died a few months ago in a tragic accident there. I don't know if it is related to the road surfaces, but can I ask that we look into that and do whatever we need to make sure these kinds of accidents do not take place? And can I ask about when you do the micro surfacing of roads? About 2 years ago, you did Elsdon Avenue, which was, you took up the tarmac that was there and you put tarmac on top. Elsdon Avenue to date is falling apart. The concrete, the original concrete road underneath is starting to move. We've now got potholes all over the place because of the wear of traffic. So can we consider that the actual road surfaces that we put down on and the foundations that they are being laid upon, that we're not doing quick jobs just to save a few quid. We're actually doing a job that will last 50 years. It's rather sad, but I think that needs looking into now. So maybe not this financial year, but the following financial year, that'll need to be done again. So it's, in a sense, it's been a waste of money. So can we look into, you know, when we do road surfacing, that they are going to last? Well, thank you very much. Oh, one final comment about the issues at Wheatley Park. There was supposed to be a plan for a roundabout there, near the co-op, and that would have slowed the traffic down immensely. I know that Margaret Richards had talked about that. She allocated money from her members scheme. Maybe she should look into that. Traffic lights are fine, but I think what it needs there is an actual physical structure, which is a roundabout. Thank you.
Yes. Wayne.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. If anybody's watching this and the term LC whips has been mentioned quite a few times, just think it might be worthwhile, because I know that we're heavily into the jargon, but just explaining what LC whips means.
Yeah, it's the acronym that the government have adopted for local cycling, walking improvement plans, I think it is. So yeah, basically it's the acronym for that, but what they are is a detailed review and assessment as to what are the key transport corridors for pedestrian and cycling movements in terms of key destinations, things like schools, things like key employment centres, as to where you get the most footfall and the most cycle traffic currently, and then trying to build on that in terms of identifying the networks and the connections within those networks to make best use of those routes.
Great. It's just obviously we're kind of in the know, but some people might not be, so just explains that. Two things. One is on the micro surfacing. I had a number of streets done in my area a couple of years back, and you're quite right. We put out letters saying there's going to be micro surfacing and you need to keep your car off the road and etc. etc. You know what? A 2 or 3 minute link to a short YouTube video showing what it is that's going to happen, and be honest, say it's going to look pretty messy for a few months, and you're going to get loads of chippings flying around. But you know what? This is what it looks like when it's done. So please come to Northburn. You can video the lovely roads that I've had done here, not all of them, just a few. Have a look at what difference it's made, and I've got some before and after pictures as well if you want to use them. But these are roads which have been in a couple of years now, and I think a short, fun, factual video, and we put a link on just saying please go to YouTube Northumberland TV and click on this link, and you'll be able to see what it's like, because nothing beats the reality of seeing something. And it's, you know, and we're all going to get it in the neck. I did when the stuff was being done. Alan's getting it done. Everybody's gets it in the neck, because if you don't explain, people quite rightly will challenge. So that was one thing. And the other thing, very quickly, it was mentioned in the sort of introduction to this section that there was £350,000 on road markings. I'm desperately looking through to find out exactly where it is. Is that 350,000 for our LAC area, local area council area, or is that for the whole county? I just can't quite work out what that is.
It's a county-wide programme. It's basically going to be allocated against each of the individual area highway managers to invest in their areas. Yeah.
Could I just come back on that, Jeff? It's all right.
Yeah.
So on that element of the 350,000 for road markings, is that against what we would understand as estate roads where people live, or is that on main roads, A's and B's, C's?
It's basically where it's needed in relation to the area network and the understanding of the asset management approach from the area highways manager, and feedback is had in terms of problems within the network within their patch. So it can be on any of those locations.
Right. Right, I'll be getting an email in with some sites, and I'm sure we'll all be doing the same in this area. So dive in, guys, before anybody else does. Thank you.
I'll quickly end the meeting and get some emails sent. Right, Russ, I've got Russ and Les. Did you want to ask another question afterwards?
All I want to do is back up what Wayne has just said, to have some kind of video which gives an expectation that people are actually going to get. It was certainly, and I'm sure we could all say it, it would save me so much hassle. I've got a street called Carrisbrook in Bedlington where they don't accept what's happened. And if they knew what the reality was, that would make my wife happier, our wives happier. And in truth, I think some of the staff who are actually doing the work will also get flack, make their wife happier as well. So I would really, Wayne, that's a great idea. Absolutely go for it, please.
Yeah, I think when some of my estates got done, Mick Call sent me a couple of sort of some literature, sort of email it to me, and I sent it out to residents and put it on a Facebook page and to show them that it does make a difference once it settles in. So it's a really good idea.
I think, Chair, it's something we'll happily pursue because, like you say, a picture's paint 1,000 words, and if it's a really slick way of doing that, more than happily do that. Yeah,
I think it was something from the company who actually had done the work, the literature. So Les, did you want to ask another question?
Yes, sorry, Chair. It's I just want to clarify something. The projects that were in 2020 and 21, that won't be done because of COVID and all the restrictions that you've had with your workforce and so on, that you've carried on. Well, you're looking to have these projects done in 2021-22. So that's basically nothing to do with what we're looking at. And the funding is secure to do these projects. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Malcolm.
Thank you, Christine. Bit of a tenuous link for my question. You've got micro surfacing down for Cramlington Road in my ward. What I would like to ask about is, when I presume it's because we've had probably 12 months of road works and whatnot on that section of road. But on the plan application for the housing estate that's going in there, there was a report done to remove the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is about 1/4 of a mile long. It's probably something it might have made sense in the past, but it certainly doesn't make sense now. You're building we've got a entry exit into a new housing estate right on a bend, right where it changes to a 40 mile an hour. In the planning application, because I sat in that application, it was agreed to reduce that from 40 to 30, and it's still at 40 now. So can somebody answer that one?
Neil? Unmute me.
Yeah, sorry. I would have to check where that is, to be honest. I'm not too aware of that one, but I would have to check on the list of PROs we've got and check where that is in the system.
Well, on Cramlington Road, you've only got one bit that goes to 40 mile an hour, Neil. And it's a bit in between Bedlington and Cramlington. It goes 40 down to the railway track. It's about quarter mile long.
Yeah.
It's got the bend and it's got the dip in. And it's an anachronism now. It probably made sense when it was Bedlington District Council or whatever. But now it needs to be 30 mile an hour. And I know the town council has asked for it as well. Residents have asked for it. So it really needs looking at. And it was part of the planning application, actually. The highway is part of the plan application for that new development there.
I'll check with planning to see if they sent that through. We can easily, that's straightforward to get sorted out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll discuss it with planning to see if anything's coming through. It may well be on the list of a huge list of TROs, so it may well be on there and being looked at. But I can check up on you for you and get back to you.
Thank you. I mean, it's been well over a year now. And like you say, it's taken down the sign, really. That's all you're doing. You just extend the 30. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
In terms of the microservicing, we don't want to leave it too long because, as you're probably aware, we've done quite a bit of patching along that stretch because of the deterioration. So the longer we leave it, the more costly it's going to be to maintain. So we really want to try to get it microsurfaced, but ideally work with what's happening with the development, which we'll have a look at.
Dale, can I just ask? I mean, it's probably more than 12 months that we've seen roadworks along there. For God's sake, I mean, if the gas people had worked with the water people had worked with the electric people, I'm sure we could have taken that time scale right down. I mean, they're still there now. And I don't believe main services is on the site yet. But what I'm be keen to avoid, obviously, is to do any microservicing down there and then see it ripped up again. I mean, that's just craziness. So can we just make sure everybody's finished before we do that?
Yeah, certainly.
Brilliant. Thank you. Wayne, and then I've got Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry, I didn't mean to kind of come in, but it was Malcolm who set me off on something I want to have a minor rant about, but I'm going to do it. So recently I paid for some speed reduction flashing signs in my area, and I had quite some interesting debate about the sort of signs that I wanted, which included the ones with a smiley face or a tick, thank you for keeping within the speed limit. No, you can't have them. You've got to have these ones which indicate the speed limit. Last week, I drive up to County Hall, I come off the A1 at the Morpeth Slip Road, and I discover on the approach to County Hall these beautiful speed indicator signs thanking me for sticking to the speed limit. Where is the consistency?
You are allowed the text, but it's the emojis you're not allowed to have.
Right. So when I asked for a check to say thank you, which is what that did, it said thank you. Have you seen? If you've seen them, drive off the A1 coming into Morpeth, you'll see them.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked when I saw it. And it's when Malcolm mentioned about speed signs that I saw that. And if we are going to have a county council, the messaging's got to be clear. It's got to be consistent.
And I would not have put the signs in, which I paid for, on Horton Drive and the B1505. I would not have put those in if I'd had choice. I would have put something which welcomed people sticking to a speed limit. And I would just really love to know why it is that and I know other members in Cramlington have possibly had this as well. And when I go to Seaton Valley, Susan, you've got some lovely ones with their smiley faces. It's like, oh, wow, let's have a party on the road. I just don't get it. You know, if we're going to be consistent, be consistent. And if we're going to celebrate difference, that's fine, but at least give people a choice. But at the minute, Cramlington has one set of speed signage. Seaton Valley's got the lovely smiley faces. And when I drive up to Morpeth, they've got what I want, which is the thank you for keeping to the speed limit. Thank you very much. So can we just please, can someone look into that? And if there's an option, I would love to get a refund on those speed signs I've put in and get the ones I actually wanted. So if someone could please look into that, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Who's going to look into that for Wayne? Is it going to be you, Neil?
Looks like it.
I think I don't know if there's an age thing in terms of the age of the signs as well, but certainly there are a number of different manufacturers. So we'll happily have a look in terms of the consistency, but they're not something that the county council actually provides directly because they're not DFT effectively approved signage. So they are something that's there just as an addition to support the traffic safety and road safety.
Can I just come in there, Christine? It's just to explain the Seaton Valley one, so I don't want to. It's Seaton Valley Council who've put those in, and they're mobile, so we move them around. And yes, there was advice from county, but we talked to other local authorities in the area and decided that those were the ones that we wanted because they were the most effective at engaging with people. So, you know, it's the parish that have done them. Thank you.
Alan.
Thank you for letting me come back again. I'm only coming back because of the tenuous link that Malcolm highlighted and the rant that Wayne described. I mean, I've sent a request in for this, but not heard anything. So if somebody could answer the question that I had, then that would be great. But on the Dudley Lane, the main route, dual carriageway running from, you know, past Barnes Park, Southfield Green, down to where you get on the A19. On that carriageway coming down, if you're coming south, about 50, well, maybe 50, 80 metres before the beginning of that roundabout, it changes from 30 on that dual carriageway. Not because of the school, I understand that. But then there's a sign which says 40. And what I've observed, and many of my residents have observed, is actually drivers speed up, you know, 100 metres from the roundabout. And recently we had an accident there where a car actually overshot the roundabout and went into the housing estate in Southfield Green. So the question I have is, and what I've asked and not a response to is, can we not just change that and make it 30 all the way down and then change it to 40 after the roundabout? And similarly coming back up, it just seems nonsensical.
Mark, glad you had something before Highways answer.
Yeah, I've actually had this discussion with Neil before because yes, you're right, Alan. It's all the way out of Cramlington, it's 30, and then it goes to 40. And then at the end of Dudley Lane, it goes to de-restricted. And then once you cross over the A19, it goes back to 30. If you turn left towards the mini roundabouts, once you get to the end of there, it goes back to 40 again. It's completely inconsistent all the way around. And as I discussed with Neil, if we just had it at 30 all the way down there, it would make more sense, and it would stop some of the confusion that drivers have. Some of them come off the A19, they think it's still de-restricted, and you know, we'll have these problems with speeding up and down Dudley Lane repeatedly. As the results from the camera van show, it's the second highest speed capture area in Northumberland, and the caravan's only there for a very, very small amount of time, and it still gets, I think, previous year it was 2,000 people, and that's when it's there. When it's not there, it is a bit of a free-for-all. So, having that bit of consistency in the speed would really help, and I completely agree with you on that one.
Thank you.
We can certainly take a look at that, given the concerns raised. Discuss it with the police as well, and it's something we can certainly, if it can be done. Yeah, certainly worth looking at.
So we'll have all Cramlington councillors hands up if they want the speed reduced. The meeting. Thank you, Neil. Barry, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, at the risk, I don't want to prolong this any longer. I know we're going off subject, but what Alan describes on Dudley Lane is exactly the same on Crowhall Lane in mine and Wayne Daly's area, and it's something that we've both put into our small schemes. It's one of those ones that seems to sit in the in tray, and we're waiting for it to go into the out tray, frankly.
Yeah, thank you. I think we should have a look at the High Pit Road as well. That's 40, 30, 40. We should just have 30 all around the outside ones, shouldn't we, really, now? Cramlington's getting busier. Thank you. Any more questions? Hands down, Barry. Any more questions? No. Well, I'd like to thank all the members and all officers for attending the meeting to answer questions about that. Thank you. So we're going on to item 5 on the agenda is date of the next meeting, which is a typo on the paper. It's 17th of March. And is there any urgent business? No. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I quite enjoyed that. And it looks like Cramlington's going to get some things sorted. That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.